Morning, kiddos. Okay, so today we're going to work on direct and indirect objects. It's going to be in whatever folder it's in. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch a couple videos about what are direct and indirect objects. And then we're going to complete a certain number of them on the Sophos Grammar Plus workbook. I'll show you exactly that. We'll play a little Jeopardy as always. Direct objects receive the action of the verb. A direct and an indirect object always have to have an action verb. They can never have a be verb, a linking verb in them. And to have a direct object, to have an indirect object, we must have a direct object. That's not the case with the other way, but I'll show you. All right, so here's the assignment. We have practice A and practice B. What we're going to do is we're going to do and then we have indirect objects. We're going to do 1 through 5 on practice A and practice B in both of them. We're not going to do all 10. So let's start off looking at number 1, and we're going to do number 1 in practice A for direct and indirect objects together. So we're going to read each sentence, then write the direct object. What we're going to do is we're going to do it on a sheet of paper. I'll tell you how to number them, and then you'll just write them, and my aides will grade them. So Stefan plays football, basketball, and baseball. So first thing we have to ask ourselves is what is the subject of the sentence? Who or what are we talking about? We're talking about Stefan. And we ask ourselves the action. What is Stefan doing? Remember, direct and indirect objects always have to have action verbs. They cannot have be verbs. They cannot have linking verbs. Stefan plays. Then we ask ourselves, what does Stefan play? What receives the action of playing? Well, there's 3 direct objects in number 1. Stefan plays football, basketball, baseball. So write on your paper football, basketball, and baseball. There's only 1 in number 2. There's 1 in number 3. There's 1 in number 4. And there's 2 in number 5. So number 1 will be worth, part A for direct objects will be worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. Part B just says, read each sentence and fill in each blank with a direct object that makes sense. You may add other words if need be. So, again, pretty simplistic. Just be appropriate, please, even though I know it looks like a Mad Lib. Please be school appropriate. So part B will be worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this will be worth 15 points on this side. Then indirect objects. Indirect objects, kiddos, if I'm correct, and I'm pretty sure I am, they always come before the direct object. If direct objects answer the question whom or what, indirect objects answer the question to who or for what, or to whom or for whom. So for practice A, we're not going to underline the indirect object because we're not writing on these pages. What you're going to do is you're just going to write the indirect object for 1 through 5. So if I said my brother gave the dog a squeaky toy, Number one, again, first we ask, what's the subject? Who or what are we talking about? We're talking about brother. Then we ask ourselves, number two, what's the action? What did the brother do? What's the action of what he did? He gave. But then for number three, what we have to do is we have to ask ourselves, what's the direct object? Do not write the direct object, but we have to know the direct object before we can know the indirect object. My brother gave, what did he give? He gave a toy. And then we ask ourselves, for whom or to or for what or to or for whom did my brother give the toy? Well, gave it to the dog. So for number one, you just write dog. That is your indirect object. So for number two, there is one. Three is, there's one. Four is one. Five is one. So there's one for each of these. So these will be worth 5 points. And then for this one, we have to decide whether or not they have a direct, an indirect object or not. Remember, always ask yourselves, let's start by doing our 3 questions. First, finding the subject, then finding the predicate, the verb, and then finding the direct object. And then after we find the direct object, we can ask ourselves, to who or for whom, to who or for what did something receive the direct object? So let's look at number one together. And, let's do all 8 on these. So I lied a bit in my directions. I'm kind of like Schwarzenegger in Commando. I lied. Old joke. Anyway, we look at number one. Alvin is our subject. And then we ask ourselves, what did Alvin do? Alvin wore. And then Alvin, we can ask ourselves, what did Alvin wear? Alvin wore a hat. So then we say, to who or for whom, to who or for what did Alvin wear a hat? We don't know. So for number one, just put none. So there's none for number one. I'm just looking real quick. Okay. So we are going to do 1 through 8. So this will be worth 13 points for indirect objects. But let me help you a little bit. There are 2 more sentences in 1 through 8 that have no indirect objects. So 2 through 8, I was told there was going to be no math. 5 of them will have direct objects. 2 of them will not have. 5 of them will have indirect objects. 2 of them will have no indirect objects. When you're done, Pirates, again, you're going to write all your answers on a blank sheet of paper. I'll help you a little bit. And then, as always, you make sure your name's on it, put it on the back. My aides will grade it. If you have any questions, please raise your hand in class or please message me in Schoolology. Thank you very much, Pirates. Have a super sparkly day.